All right, so welcome, and I have not been here for a long time, but today I'm going to catch you up on all the things that have been going on with me. We're going to talk a little bit about my 12-week goal, my first launch of my course, and also I went on vacation, I went hiking in Europe, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and also what I'm going to be doing from here on in. So just to catch you up, I have a lot to cover, so let's get started. So as you know, I have a 12-week year goal that was to create content consistently. You're probably wondering, like, so did you create content consistently? And because we haven't seen you. Well, I have actually created content consistently, and this is where my course comes in. I launched a course at the end of March, April, and I had to create content for it. And I want to share like how that kind of came about. And let me first start with, you need a friend like my friend who pushed and prodded me to get going on this thing. There was an opportunity and she thought I would be a good fit for it. And she prodded me to get this content out and to submit a proposal. And so without that encouragement, nice word, encouragement, without her bugging me about it, I don't think I would have done it. And so, friend, thank you so much that you were persistent and cared enough to make sure that I did it. So that was awesome. And so basically, she encouraged me to create a proposal for this organization that we both belong to. It's called AWCC, Asian Women's Coaching Collective. And every month, that organization, for their members, shares, does a presentation for professional development and other things. And so I put my hat in the ring and said, I'd love to do something with, getting on camera fast, right? So that people who, video is such a thing that we do all the time, whether it's a Zoom call or, sharing content like this, or even creating content one-on-one for our clients. And so I got scheduled to run that program for the members. And then, of course, I have to have like an offering at the end. So it was a free webinar, but then it led into a paid course. And the course that I offered was Show Up on Video, basically a continuation of the Get on Camera Fast, where I would, help folks who really are like new to creating video get all the technical needs that they needed, the encouragement, prompts. I created a membership community. I provided resources. So it was 4 weeks long. You get me live twice a week, actually. The first is the actual lesson, and then the second later in the week is like a Q&A, and you can pretty much bring up anything. And we would also talk a little bit about what was difficult that week with the lesson, or executing it, and also any technical questions that they might have, as well as feedback on their videos. I did that for 4 weeks. Basically, they got me 8 times live during that 4-week cohort. Doing the free presentation was fun and exciting, but then when you get to the part where you're like basically selling, when you're presenting your offer, hey, it's just hard, right? Like, but I had to put myself out there. It was definitely an exercise in like, and in advocating for yourself, and I'm glad I did it. At the end of the day, after I presented it to them, as well as within my personal network, I was actually able to get 6 people to sign up. So I think that's a win. I was pretty happy that it wasn't too big and it wasn't like no one. So, kudos to me. You got to be your own cheerleader, man. The one thing about this cohort is that I had an outline for what I was going to teach, but I did not have all the materials built out. And that was a little nerve-wracking because the whole time in my head, I kept thinking, no, I've got to create the whole thing. Everything, from every week, I should have all my content already built out with slides, script, everything. And that was the urge that I had, but I had to really like pull it back and say, no, I'm only going to create, I have an outline and that's enough for now. And I'm just going to build it as I go, because then it gave me flexibility to flex and and shift the content as like my students needed it to. So I'm so glad I didn't build it out all at once, because you know what? Even as I was presenting, sometimes you can tell like, okay, this is not resonating, and maybe there's something else that they'd be more interested in. So glad I did not do that. Overall, I think it went well. Afterwards, I, had a lot of questions for myself, like, how do I make this better? What can I do to further engage? Is this format the right format for my course for the next cohort? Did I create a community, like in terms of using Mighty Networks? Was that overkill, or is that just right? I personally really like Mighty Networks. I just love how easy it is to use. For this topic, was this like the appropriate like setup, right? So there was all these questions in my head that I have used the answers to kind of help groom and tweak what the future might look like for that. I also learned a lot about myself. I get excited about certain things, and I have to temper that with, what really is appropriate to be sharing with my students at the right time. I'll give you an example. I was using Ecamm Live to do the presentation, so it looks very professional, looks really nice, and I shared it towards the end as one of my last Q&As. I shared like the back end of it. It is a little bit intimidating. I will not lie to you about that, when you don't know what all of the features and overlays look like. For me, I was super excited to share it because I know it, but I think what I didn't get was like, oh yeah, like maybe this is not the right time to be sharing this just quite yet, because it's a fine line between encouragement and then overwhelm. So I feel like maybe they were kind of overwhelmed with some of that content. So, something to keep in mind for myself, that I need to maybe temper it down, kind of watch what I'm, it's like ask myself, is this really good for them, or is it just because I'm super excited about it? Overall, the whole experience was really aligned with my goal also of like just starting to do instead of overthinking everything. I had an outline, I just went with it. And honestly, if you are interested in sort of how this, course came to be, and the details of that course, the good and the bad, the ugly, make sure to leave a comment below, but definitely ask me any questions you might have about it. I'm more than happy to share, because I think there's so many people out there that can really share their info, and yeah, any way I can help, let me know. So then after the cohort, and I was completely drained from it, honestly, I only had like a week or 2 weeks after, and we had a planned vacation. So my husband and I were spending a few weeks in Europe, doing some hiking in Switzerland and in Austria, and then a little bit of time in Budapest at the end with some friends. And so I spent a good amount of that time doing a lot of hiking with sort of a lot of steep hills. As I was like catching my breath as I was walking uphill, I was spending a lot of time thinking about the business that I have, what I need to do, and all this work that went into this course that I created, and what do I want it to look like. So I spent a lot of time thinking about those things. I didn't do much other work other than the thinking about it, and also I did some vlogging, which is not really a vlog, I guess, if you don't show it to other people. But I did a daily diary, again, just to talk to the camera and record our days and like what we did and what we were going to be doing the following day. And it was mainly for me to kind of relive and kind of share that on video and to practice a little bit. But like I said, I did very little work other than thinking about what the future might be. Here's a little quick update on what that future might look like in terms of, what I'm planning on doing for the next several weeks. So 12-week year goal is still a thing. I am actually working on the details of what my next 12 weeks is going to look like. I'll be sharing those in future episodes. The likelihood is I'm going to be niching down, and I'm not sure if I should say that and share that, but I'm going to niche down. I need to like figure out like specific things. I can't do everything and do everything for everyone. So I am going to be focused on a couple of things, trying to get back into content creation. So this podcast, obviously, I'm starting to create the podcast again. And my goal is to create more YouTube videos that may not be podcast related. And, one of the great things about the way that I have my podcast set up is that I'm just going to do it wherever I am with whatever I have. In that vein, I actually have a quick business starter guide for creating your setup. And so if you're interested in that, make sure to go to justeffy.com/start video and download that. And there's a lot of resources there that I share for using typically what you already have. And then also some tips on, what to say, how to say it, and also some tiny habits to get out of your own way. So I'm going to be sharing that with that free guide. I know when I started my podcast, I talked a lot about my health, and that was sort of like the impetus for like creating this podcast was talk about health and business and, and I will still mention things that I'm working on regarding my health and my journey with my blood glucose levels. But I will be focusing more on the business side of things and the things that I'm trying and working on. But the health piece will sort of take a little bit of a backseat, and I'm going to be focusing more on the things that I'm doing to get other coaches to, show up on video, get their email marketing systems up and running. Those are actually the two areas that I'm going to be focusing on. So video confidence and setup, and also the email system set up for your marketing. I'm not a marketing guru, but I am focused on like helping people get that set up because I've noticed that a lot of people are just stuck using the tech, and there's more than just sending out an email every once in a while that you can use it for. So I want to help people utilize it fully and also how to do the two things together. So those are the two areas that I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be focusing on Kit, what was formerly known as ConvertKit. So that's also the system. I know MailerLite, I know MailChimp, I know how to use those, but I actually prefer to use ConvertKit. I find it very easy and useful. So that's what I'm going to focus on. Again, it's all about niching down in this next 12 weeks and staying focused on that. And that's kind of like where I'm going. I'm excited to share all of this stuff with you guys. And also, I'm kind of psyched that I'm sort of using the simplest setup for recording this podcast. And if you're also interested in how I set up my podcast, I started this podcast from when I recorded to when I published it. It took me a little over 3 hours, so a short afternoon. And so in my next YouTube video, I'm going to be sharing the step-by-step on how I did that and the system that I used to get that going. And I'll share a little checklist also. So make sure to check out my channel, Just Steffi, on YouTube, because if you're interested in podcasting or creating a quick video, that's going to like walk you through it. It's super easy. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but you know what? It's good enough. And it got me started. So definitely go check it out. Okay, I shared a lot today. I'm kind of out of breath. I'm glad to be back doing this again. There's always a time for like planning, but then really the most important part is the doing. And that's what this whole episode has been about, is me just doing and getting it started, and with the seagull bird noise in the background. You might even hear the wind or other people talking, not sure. But hopefully this was helpful, and I hope it gets you to get started to record your own video. I'm Effie in Progress, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.